Happy Saturday. Oh, I'm out here looking at the belt pulley assembly on my 612 again, trying to decide what I should do. So I took some measurements. I bolted this down and put some feeler gauges underneath to see what type of end play there was and how much slop there was in the babbitt. There's about 17 thou to take up all the slop. So assuming you want, say, a couple thou clearance, you're still looking at 15 thou excess wear. And then I did the same kind of thing. I stuck feeler gauge in here to see what kind of side play there was. And there's at least 8 thou side play there, probably a little bit more, maybe closer to 10. So there again, assuming you want a couple thou running clearance, you're probably looking at, at least seven thou worth of wear. I'm asking around, kind of getting people's opinions on that, what they think is acceptable of what those tolerances really should be, because I'm not an expert on that. Maybe it's not excess, but my gut is just kind of saying that, maybe that's too much play, and maybe I should think about trying to address that in one way or another, just so, when you're running that belt pulley isn't sitting there chattering away. I don't know. I'm not an expert, so that's why I'm not as scared to solicit other people's opinions on the matter. I was looking at that worn dowel pin hole, trying to see what my options were there. It looks like it started out life as a 7/16 diameter by 1 inch long dowel pin. And the hole, it's definitely is the 7/16 drill bit, is definitely worn, sloppy in the housing here, which we covered last week. The hole in this drive piece is all right, though. That is actually snug, and I can't get it all the way through, so it might even be a tapered hole, possibly, question mark. So I don't think that'll be an issue. So I'll have to do some research what the next size dowel pin available is. If I bump it up and say remount this to the next size dowel pin to take up the slop there, and then, like I said, possibly add a second one on this side to take some of the stress off, since there's the hairline crack on there. I did discover, though, that this piece is hardened. You take a file to it, and let's do one hand here, but it's hard. It just kind of skids across the surface. So this is definitely a hardened piece. So that might make drilling it a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but more difficult. Because the thought had crossed my mind to possibly just remake this entire piece. That would eliminate the problem of these hairline cracks in these corners. It would potentially eliminate this fitment issue, because you could machine it to fit that shaft, more closer tolerances. Depending on this babbitt situation, clearance there, what the answer is there, you could machine the new one with a slight ridge to run on the babbitt there to basically take up some of that end play slop there. It would eliminate that problem. You could possibly machine these a little bit closer tolerances and possibly leave that shoulder in there a little bit thicker to strengthen that area just a little bit more. I know you're changing, originality's, aspect of it, but this is all completely hidden. I'm a little bit better okay with changing things, that are completely hidden, that you're never going to see. Things like, external bolts and lock washers and things that you're going to see, I really hate to deviate from factory in those aspects. But when it's completely hidden and it's a mechanical thing, you're strengthening it, improving upon it, in those aspects, I'm a little bit more okay with that. So I don't know. I'm still kind of just out here this morning, just kind of kicking around ideas, getting some advice from some friends and seeing what they think. And I'll kind of go from there. Nice thing about this is, even if I do decide to say put new babbitt in it or machine a new part here, whatever, I don't have to have this assembly on the tractor right away. I could actually put bolts in these holes and you could run the tractor like that. Like I mentioned in the last video last week there, that the manual even says to take this belt pulley off when it's not being used. And they provided a domed sheet metal cover that covers up this square shaft for safety's sake, so you don't have a spinning shaft there to potentially get caught on. So basically what I'm getting at is I don't need this assembly here. So I could, if this turns out to be a more in-depth part of the rebuild and say having to do babbitt work and whatnot, that this could be put on the back burner, or not. It doesn't have to be done right now to get this assembly painted, I guess is what I'm getting at, or at least in primer. So I guess that's what I know at this point. I'm not sure what else I'm going to work on here today. It's just kind of one of those days where I think, I come out and whenever I look at it, whatever I feel like working on, I might working on. Who knows, maybe I'll go work on something completely different here today and leave this 612 project for another day. But because it is getting to be springtime and I should go out and start doing some yard work, make sure the lawnmower is all tuned up for the year and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, well, I'll probably check back with you guys later. I didn't get a whole lot done today. Kind of a lazy day. Ended up going playing with tractors with Lawrence this morning here, this afternoon I guess rather, a little bit instead. But I did manage to get these, what should we call it, transmission hitch parts cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to do the hardware yet, but kind of neat. They're definitely hand forged, handmade, and I'm pretty confident these are not factory parts. I kind of mentioned that last week, I believe. That there's nothing in the parts book about these. And then now that I got them cleaned up and actually inspecting them, you can see they're definitely hand forged. I mean, you can see the blacksmith hammer marks. You can see the little punch marks on the bends. For those that don't know, back in the day when the blacksmith would be laying out a part to bend, take a punch and make two little dimples on every spot where the bends are going to be, kind of like layout marks. Because you couldn't draw a line, because if you're going to heat it up, that line would disappear. So they put little punch marks as reference, so you know where to bend or twist or whatever operation they were going to do. So you wouldn't see that on a factory part, I'm pretty sure. Like I mentioned, all the holes were, instead of just being drilled like in a drill press in modern operations, these were punched through, and then they're actually wider because that steel would expand as you drove the material outwards. And you can see the same thing on the drawbar part here. All of them are like that, really. So that's another clue that they were not factory-made parts. Another clue is that their tolerances are nowhere near factory tolerances. The parts are all kinds of different. So if you line up the important where the mounting holes are there, they're different. The angles and the sizes, they're all just a little bit, they're handmade. They're all a little bit different. I'll have to put them on the tractor here and make sure that they actually fit properly too. I mean, they were on the tractor. I took them off, but I'll have to make sure none of them need to be modified, straightened out. Like that one, I'm guessing might need to be straightened. I'm guessing these should really be flat, or this one's got a pretty good twist to it. And I don't see any reason why that should really be like that. I'll probably have to straighten that out. These go, that goes through that hole, and these go on top like that, and all bolt through together. But same thing, you can put these together, and they're not exactly the same. They're handmade. I'm probably going to still put them on the tractor because, like I said, it kind of adds a little bit of that history to it. It shows what these tractors went through. I mean, it shows it earned its keep back in the day. You can see the center part here, where the hole here, where the whatever they had hitched to it was actually most likely used that center hole, because you can see the wear where that hitch was sitting there, wearing on that, wearing into that steel. Why this front edge is so beat up, mushroomed, I'm not quite sure. It looked like it was, hammered on, but I don't really know why that would be. It's just kind of interesting. A lot of history there. More dimple marks on the inside of that where they laid out that 90-degree bend. Hammer marks. Like I said, I gotta clean up the hardware yet. Maybe tomorrow, come out and work on that. But a little progress for the day. Not a whole terribly lot, but any step forward is a good step, I guess. Like I said, I was scratching my head over that belt pulley a little bit, so I'm not quite sure what I'll do with that yet. I'll probably get a few more opinions from people that know, and I'll get back to you on that and let you know what I find out. I guess I could update you. So I think I mentioned last video that I had to find some of these thick-headed bolts for this belt pulley housing, and I thought I could get them from Restoration Supply Company, but I can't. The 3/8 16 bolts that they have, the heads are, I believe, 9/16, whereas these are 11/16 head bolts by 3/8 thick. So I'm probably going to have to end up having to make some bolts, which is not the end of the world, but I thought I'd be able to just order some up. So one thing I do have a question on for anybody out there that are watching this that might know, what type of steel should I be looking for to make bolts out of? I can, like on McMaster-Carr, for example, I can order up the correct 11/16 size hex stock to turn the new bolts out of, but there's at least 3 different options of steel hex stock from McMaster-Carr. What kind, anybody that you out there that watching this that might know, what kind of steel is ideal for making bolts out of? And should I worry at all about heat treating them? I'm guessing not in this application, because they don't need to be like, grade 8 super headstrong bolts or anything like that. As long as they're, say, if they're grade 5, that'd probably be plenty good enough for what they're doing. Because I'm sure these bolts, if they're that, the original ones, they're probably grade 5 or less. I'm guessing they're pretty pretty soft bolts. But that's all they really had back then, to my knowledge. They didn't have hardened bolts back in 1920. So yeah, if you have any wisdom on that topic, let me know. Leave me a comment or get a hold of me. I'd like to hear more about that, so I end up maybe preventing some headaches there. For now, I think I will call her a night here and hopefully check back with you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.